Hello guys, welcome to another live stream. 10 days since the last one. I hope we've all got plenty done since I was last online, live so to speak. Tonight I'm going to be working my way through these goblin archers, which hopefully you can see here. As per usual, I have primed them white, painted them with Null Oil, let it dry, then give them a heavy dry brush with white. You'll see there's patches of white on some of them because after I had painted them, I started to see the mold lines. They were not very visible until they had a coat of paint on them. That's the old Skull Pass miniatures. They're not the best miniatures, they never were. Games Workshop obviously made them to a real budget. Let me just check to see. Hopefully there's somebody here, if not now, at some point. But I'm just going to paint, and if anyone shows up, we'll have a chat. But I'm going to stick with the way I've been painting all my goblins so far. And that is, we'll start with their skin tone. And I'm going to use Ghillie Dew, which is the colour I've been using. I think it looks really, really good on goblins. Of course, this is just a personal preference. Your mileage may vary, as they say. You may prefer something different. I just like, out of the speed paints I have, and I have probably at least 7 or 8 different greens. This is the one I prefer for the goblins. So, just gonna throw a bit of paint on these. Very simple job. With these guys being archers, I don't have to worry about shields, which is nice, because the shields are a bit of a pain. Doing that yellow moon face. That paint just goes on so nicely. I'm honestly, I'm surprised there aren't more people who rave about speed paints. An awful lot of people just like to paint traditionally, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Each to their own. But I must admit that I just... Well, let me zoom in here a bit. Yeah, that's a bit better. You can see at least what I'm doing. Almost flows like wash, but it's more controllable. I know it's only paint, but it's amazing how much of a difference it makes when you're in a hurry. And I'm not in a hurry because I'm technically in a hurry. I know that doesn't make any sense, but what I mean by I'm in a hurry is this isn't my favourite part of the hobby. There's some people whose this is their favourite. Some people only paint. You know that anyway. You might be you, and that's fine. Whilst I love the finished results, I don't like getting there. Never have. So this is just a bit of a chore for me. So I'm always going to look for the easiest options. And what I have found so far is speed paints and contrast paints are the easiest options. Hopefully somebody joins me at some point. I'll just talk to myself until then. It's okay. I was speaking to one of my viewers on the comments section of one of the videos, and he was saying that it's summertime tonight. I think, is tonight the longest? Is this the longest day? Honestly, I never really stay up to date with these things. I don't know if it is or it isn't. What's going on with that hand? Oh, I'll see it now. It's pulling gang signs for some reason. I have bought another monitor and it's right in front of me, but Amazon decided not to send me the interface that I need to connect the blooming thing. It's due out tomorrow. Even though it was supposed to be here today, they've decided to hold off till tomorrow, which doesn't serve this live stream any good. But at least I know in future I'll just have to look in front of me instead of turning my head and looking to the side and losing track of what I'm doing. I'll also be able to keep a better eye on exactly where I'm pointing things, because I do want you to see what I'm doing. Not that there's much to it. It's basically paint by numbers doing this. Once you have your colour scheme settled, unless you're going to get into traditional painting with like a base coat, a base colour and a highlight colour, maybe 2 highlight colours. If you're going to go down that road, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, it's just not for me. I've been there and done that, and you never really get, well, at least I didn't, you never get anything finished. The last fantasy battle army that I finished would have been a Beastman army back in the day, and it was painted in a hurry, because you could paint Beastmen in a hurry even back then. But I wouldn't say it was a particularly nice looking army. It was alright. Didn't have access to these types of paints back then, so you had to kind of mix your own. I mainly used inks. Problem with inks were they were very glossy, and they also liked to flow everywhere. You didn't have a great deal of control with them. No idea if I'm even live. Hopefully I am. YouTube says I am. Goblins. Very easy army to paint. Unfortunately though, there's an absolute metric ton of them. There'll be well over 100 goblins in my army when it's finished, and that's before I paint any orcs. There's a skin tone on the first 9. It's just easy. Gonna hit these teeth, trying not to. If we could avoid hitting the teeth, then it would actually save a step. But more than likely you're gonna hit the teeth. Doesn't matter so much on these ones with their mouths kind of closed. I don't know if any of you have had the pleasure of watching Jordan's Sorcery. Hopefully you have. But just in case you don't know who I'm talking about, do a wee YouTube search. Jordan Sorcery. He does a lot of GW type interviews and game reviews. A lot of old school stuff, a lot of the modern stuff as well. But he's had some really good interviews with old GW game designers. He had a video out there in the last couple of days saying about how he's not sure if he's going to be able to continue full time. Basically he has bills to pay like the rest of us, but he's doing YouTube full time, which I don't think it's really possible these days unless you just hit a niche. But even then, it's maintaining it, even if you hit that niche. Maintaining it is going to be, and there's my phone goes out. I could have swore I had that on silent. So anyway, if you haven't seen Jordan's Sorcery yet, I would encourage you to go on and take a look at his content. Very good. He did a little tribute to Brian Ansell. Any of you who are Games Workshop fans of any sort of age at all will know who Brian Ansell was. Basically without him we wouldn't have any of the games that we know and love in any form really. And some more paint. And it was when I seen that tribute to Brian Ansell, I kind of had a lot of respect then from then on for Jordan. So when I seen his new video about asking for patrons, which nobody likes to do, no one's going to like asking for money. It's just not something we enjoy doing. who enjoys doing it. You know, I suppose there are some people who think they're entitled, but most of us don't like asking for money or asking for anything. However, I think Jordan is providing really good content, really worthy of a patron subscription, even if it's only at the lowest level. So I would just like to encourage you to go and take a look at his stuff, and if you like what you see, spend £1 a month and sign up with him. But anyway, that's enough plugging of other people. There's nobody else who I could really direct you to, content wise. There are other people I watch, of course. I'm a fan first and foremost of the hobby. And this is a great way to get stuff done. Hopefully if anyone is watching, they're painting. Because unfortunately it's the only way to get things done, you gotta do it. And paint goes on really well. I had one viewer actually comment on one of my videos. I think it was the first night Goblin video I did. He said he thought of these, he thought the miniatures looked like FDM prints. I know they're pretty bad, but good God, man. They're not that bad. I have an FDM printer and I have tried in the past. When I first got it, I tried to print miniatures. No. I did successfully paint some vehicles and plenty of scenery, and I currently use it for bases. And anyone who follows my Hero Quest content will know that I have plans to make a 3D Hero Quest board. I'll be using my FDM printer for that, I have been. But I'm going to do a series of videos on how to get into that side of the hobby for anybody that's interested. Now, why is this not? We have. Good evening. We have Contact. Nice green shade. It is a nice green, isn't it? It really is. Gilly Dew. Highly recommend it. Just go out and buy yourself, if you're painting goblins. It's actually a really nice green. It would do an awful lot of different things, but it really suits goblins. Good evening, Trinda. I'll have to get some names of people. Well, that's probably not a good idea because... Now, where did I bring the white out? No idea. See, can't multitask. Next colour up is going to be the arrows, perhaps. And I think I'm just going to wash the arrows and the belts. They're like a rope. Let me see. Do we want to try? I don't know what that's going to be like. I was thinking of trying a Goros Dunes, but it might be too, you know what, it doesn't hurt because it's a contrast paint, so you can even see it. Try and stay in shot. It might be too brown. I actually only use it for painting the bases on undead figures, which might be a strange thing to do with it, but let's see what that looks like. Don't need to be super neat here because it's alright. It's kind of leathery. Yeah, I think that'll do. Do for the belts anyway. Again, because I'm painting from my light colours to my dark colours, it's not a big deal here about hitting the white areas. As long as it's not major. Friday night, a few people not got nothing better to do. Nowhere to go. Bit like me. Never even twigged on that it was Friday night when I put this up. And I thought, most people are they're gonna have actual things to do. Part of my reasoning was Friday night, most people, not me, work Monday to Friday. So maybe Friday night's not a bad night for this live stream. Yeah, it looks fine. Not much of a belt on these guys. So, are any of the two of you painting? Anything? And if you're not painting right now, have you anything on the painting table? Anything planned? It's highly unlikely that you don't have stuff to paint. We are gamers of some description. It seems to be obligatory that we all buy more stuff than we can possibly paint. Yeah, some of the spade paints look really dark. The ones I've chosen for, the ones I did that with the night goblins, for the cloaks on the palette, they look almost black. So yeah, you're probably best trying to do one colour at a time. Try and avoid those problems. The detail on these miniatures, which is great, I suppose, when you're painting them. That's enough of that colour. Now, while I'm here with the browns, I will get the snake bite leather, which is another contrast paint. And I will paint the hand grips on the bows. This is actually going to be it's a wee bit darker than the Goros tunes, but not a hell of a lot. I do miss the traditional snakebite leather that Games Workshop used to make. But this is fine, this stuff. And I'm not going to be perfect here with this, but perfection is not something I'm looking for. I'm looking for tabletop ready. I have a tournament coming up. I'll use the word tournament loosely. I'm not sure how many people are going to have a lot of experience with the old world at said tournament. So I think it's mostly going to be like a learning curve for most people, including me. I've had one game so far. And whilst it's still Warhammer, there are quite a lot of things to remember. It's certainly not a basic system. And I'm going to be using my Tomb Kings. And you'll see here I've hit areas. I'll come back over these with the white, because we all make mistakes, and I make as many, if not more, than most people. You can, yes, very much so with the speed paints. Now, I haven't tried it so much with the contrast paints because I use them quite sparingly. But the speed paints, if you put it on and you don't like it, as long as you're quick, just clean your brush in water and dunk it back onto the miniature again. A wet, clean brush, and it'll lift the paint right off. Don't give it time to dry. You know, don't be letting it dry. Well, with the 1.0 speed paint, apparently you could reactivate it. But with the 2.0 speed paint, which is the stuff I use, it dries really quickly. But you still have enough time to remove it. I've had to remove it quite a lot, because, as I say, I make mistakes. And sometimes, especially when you're painting an unfamiliar miniature, or a set of unfamiliar miniatures, and you haven't really decided on a colour scheme, sometimes you can make bad decisions and you change your mind very quickly. I've done that plenty of times. With the speed paints, as long as you haven't let them dry, you can just pull them straight off again. Very easy to do. They're also very thin coats, so even if you do wait too long, and they do dry. It's just a matter of getting your white paint out again. Takes more time though, but very easy to fix. The contrast, on the other hand, I'm not certain about. It might behave the same way, or it might not, because I don't use it as much. I am not 100% certain on how easy it is to remove. But you know what, we could try here, couldn't we? So clean the brush, get it nice and wet, and we'll pull the paint off here. Yeah, so it will take it off. And if you're like me, you'll make a complete mess of it. Doesn't come off as easy as the speed paint, but it does come off. Hopefully you've seen that. So yeah, wet brush and a wet clean brush, you can remove your mistakes, or if you change your mind on the colour, you can remove it. Is that dry yet? Probably not. Try and put the colour back on it again. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. These guys are super simple to paint. I don't know if anybody's doing a Orc and Goblin army, but it's a great army to do if you're not certain on your painting skills or that you want to paint it. The only problem with it is, as with most armies that are easy to paint in Warhammer, they're high model count. The undead are the same. If you're after a real low model count army, then paint a Chaos army, Chaos Warriors. And you could do that quite easily as well. That would probably actually be the easiest army to do, because you could just paint most of them metals and black and dark colours. I'll probably do some chaos stuff at some point. I'm gonna have to remember where I've got the camera. No point sitting painting if you guys can't see it. But you see here, I'm just throwing this paint on. With these miniatures especially, and there's not a lot of detail on them, so you're kind of making it up where the paint needs to go. You can't really make a mistake, which is nice. You can be super sloppy and have to touch up, but you shouldn't really make too much in the way of a mistake. You certainly can't make a mistake that can't be fixed. And yet again, these are night goblins, so as you can tell by the cloaks. So I'm probably going to do them Tyrian Navy. My reasoning being that I just like the blue colour, and I'm thinking I can say they're from the Iron Age mountains. You know the way iron tends to dye things blue or a blue tinge. I thought that's a good reason to have them that colour. Or at least that's what I've come up with in my head. A lot of grip on these short bows. But who might argue with the goblins, eh? Yep. How is everybody tonight anyway? Hopefully is there, well, I don't know what time of day it is where you are. Hopefully it's evening here. Okay. Am I happy with that? I suppose. Any more to paint here? Just one quill or quiver. Some mostly done. These are going to be stupidly quick to paint, which is not a bad thing. Faster they are to paint, the sooner they're done. I'll show you these are the last guys I was doing, remember? So I've basically half a 40-man unit done so far. "40 goblin unit. Shouldn't really use the term man because who knows what they are. But a 40 goblin unit, I'm going to make all my goblin units at least 40 strong because I think they need it. I think Agrax Earthshade for the arrows and quills, the quills, yeah, feathers. Yep, I'm happy with that. It's really just a wash here, trying to make it resemble feathers. I'm an awful cheat when it comes to painting. You're definitely not going to win any prizes if you paint like me, but you will get stuff done. Even if you do your rank and file the way I paint, and you take time and paint your characters, you can put a lot of effort into your characters, if that's what you want to do. If you want to really learn how to paint properly, put that effort into your characters. Don't do it on your rank and file. You'll never get anything done. Unless you're a one army wonder, unless you only want one army in whatever game it is you're playing, and you never intend to paint anything else, in which case I take my hat off to you, because I would be bored really quickly if it only one army. Because orcs and goblins are slightly different. They have an awful lot of different ways of taking to the battlefield. They have a huge army choice. Probably the biggest army choice in the game. Yeah, they definitely would have. You can make an orc army, you can make a goblin army, you can make a combined army. You can make a night goblin army, a forest goblin army. You can make a savage orc army. I'm going to have to hit some of these with some white. You can make a black orc army. Any combination of the above. You can have a load of monsters. Games Workshop have actually given us the option of making a troll army now. Virtually all trolls. Or a lot of trolls anyway. So, orcs and goblins are a fantastic choice if you're new to the game, or actually you don't even need to be new to the game, they're just a good choice. How strong they are, I'm not sure. I'm not really into hunting the meta and seeing what's really good. I would rather buy and build and paint stuff that I enjoy looking at and I like the aesthetics of and how it plays. It's more important to me than how good it is. Some people just are chasing the win. Paint faster? I know. You paint faster? Have you got those dwarves done yet? Better not still be on that one guy's cloak. I'm telling you. By the way, folks, for anybody who doesn't know, that's Pointy Paints. If you want to learn how to paint properly, go and look at his channel. If you want to learn how to be a hack, continue watching mine. Hopefully you've got the paint out and you're painting something. Hopefully you're doing a video for folks. Still waiting on pre-orders. Dwarves not out yet. I'll have to see if I have some stuff knocking around for you. You know what I'm like. I have a load of stuff still up in my shed that I haven't seen in years. I did have dwarves at one point. I'm sure I probably still have some of that stuff, which you're more than welcome to. Napoleon is an absolute travesty, and it's an absolute waste of 3 hours of your life. Terrible, terrible film, and I'm sure Mr. Bonaparte was revolving in his sarcophagus. You watching it with the missus? Hopefully she's got more sense. I went to the cinema to see it. Awful. Absolutely awful. Wasn't one good battle scene. Hmm. %, S-Bart. I got the mega set as well, and it is by far the nicest tone of green, the nicest green tone in the set, by far. Some of the others aren't bad. Algae green's not bad, but Gilly Dew is the nicest. It was desperately bad. You walked out. I was tempted to walk out, but I thought I don't know how much it is to go to the cinema where you are, but it cost me about £12, I think, to see that film, which is what, $15, thereabouts, and I was staying. As painful as it was, I stayed to the end. But it was it was just disappointing. It was sad. Look, I've missed an arm. It was sad that you wait so long for a film and it turns out like that. And I can't even be political about it. It wasn't anything political. It was just dire. Absolutely dire. Missed his ears as well. So Mr. Pointy Paints, you need to stop watching Napoleon and do some painting. Do a tutorial video. Something that we can do. I'm all for learning new techniques. Ones that I can do though. Right, get the green out again. My ex-wife, we're on very good terms, by the way, always have been, but she has a monthly membership for our cinema. I don't know if it's the same where you are. I think she pays £10 a month and she can see as many films as she likes, and she takes full advantage of that. Her and a couple of her friends are at the cinema all the time, 2 or 3 times a week, and they'll see anything. They'll go to see anything. They'll go and watch the opening of a gate at the cinema. But they get their money's worth. She told me she's seen some horror film about a big spider there the other day. Funny enough, and I had just painted some spiders. I found that quite funny. but I don't think she was too impressed with the movie. But I don't think they try too hard these days when they're making films. They certainly used to. You know, you can still go and watch the old Waterloo with Rod Steiger as Napoleon. Infinitely better than that mess. That recent mess. Actually still has, probably, I haven't seen it in years, but I could bet you that the battle scenes have aged much, much better than anything in that Napoleon from Cameron. And I didn't even look to see what sort of scores it got on Rotten Tomatoes or what the critics were saying. Not that I pay an awful lot of attention to what critics say, but I'm sure it took a pasting. And I am being very sloppy with this paint. But the nice thing is it's speed paint, so it goes on really super thin. And it's super easy to paint over the top of. A podcast, two grumpy old bees talking about the old world. Might happen. It's finding the time to do stuff like that. And I can be grumpy, as you know. And sometimes I have to curb what I say. Get myself cancelled very quickly. I suppose when you get to a certain age, you stop. You don't suffer fools gladly, is that what they say? Although I could well be the fool. Right, what have I to do now? While they're drying, pull out wee commander dude, whom I had to, after I got a load of paint on him, I noticed horrible mold lines. GW, you swines. You forget. Mold lines used to be something that you really had to suffer with metal models. And you kind of get used to plastic models not really having that issue. But they actually do. My undead really reminded me just how bad they can be. I can see mold lines right the way down that. Ordinarily it doesn't really bother me, unless they're really in your face. Yeah, but we'll have to have a chat about an old world podcast, even if it's just an occasional thing. It might not be a bad idea, if there's any interest in it. Right, what am I doing now? Hurry up and dry paint. It's really just a job of touching up until I can get the lovely cloak colour on. Actually, it must horrify pointy paints to watch me painting like this. Definitely recommend any of you guys who want to learn how to paint properly, go look at his stuff. Right, almost. Don't know if that's ear or hat. I think it's ear. Hello, John. Hope you're well. Hope you've a paintbrush in your hand, or a tin of beer, or both. Or at least a mug of coffee. That's what I'm resigned to these days, mugs of coffee. Flipping bows, like meld into the cloak. Definitely these models were made on a budget. Hopefully you're all getting stuff done. Or if you're not getting stuff done, hopefully you're planning to get stuff done. Now, let me see. Bows. I can paint my bows. I hope you're speed painting properly and not your 6 hours in 1 miniature type speed painting. Star Trek starships. Now there's something. Is it the Star Trek miniatures game, or is it just like glue together type models? I remember, vaguely remember a Star Trek game in the mold of X-Wing. Is that what you're talking about? My bows are going to be red, by the way, just because. Give them a little bit of colour. And that slaughter red, again, that's one of the really nice colours from the paint set. Any of you that haven't bought the Mega Paint set, I wouldn't. If I were you, I would just choose the colours that you like and buy the colours separately. Because unfortunately there are probably a third of the colours in the Mega Paint set that I either don't like or won't really use. Now, I may use them at some point. I probably will. I'll force myself to use them at some point because I bought them. But I don't particularly like them. So, if you're new to painting and you're new to speed painting, I would highly recommend that you pick and choose the colours you buy. It might cost you a little more per pot, but you won't have 50 pots of paint and only use 20 of them or 30 of them, which is really what I find myself doing. You'd gravitate towards the colours you really like. I do. Try and add a bit of variety in. And you can mix colours to obtain other colours, but that's okay for one-off miniatures. It's no good for an army unless you're going to make a big pot of that particular colour up, or unless you write down exactly what you're doing, like 3 parts ghillie dew to 1 part whatever. But I haven't had a good look at the paint rack in my local hobby gaming shop, but I know there's an awful lot of these colours that I don't have, that I probably really like. They are Army Painter Speed Paints 2.0. I'm all about getting stuff done. Pointy Paints is all about technique, and it's basically, it's an art form for him, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not me. Those days are long behind me. I have to wear glasses, as you can see, but they're just reading glasses. But without these miniatures are a blur. And even with them, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be when I was younger. So I'm happy to just put some colour on these models and hopefully get some games in. Get them all killed on the battlefield. And very much like the Tomb Kings, when I painted their spear shafts and bows red, for some reason it just suits it in Fantasy Battle, or Warhammer the Old World as it's now known. The red colour just suits. There are some people who choose different colours, obviously, but I don't like to be thought of as a traditionalist, but Games Workshop definitely were onto something when they come up with their original colour schemes for things. I think they really did it just to contrast, so it would look good in the White Dwarf. But the colours still stand the test of time, at least to me. Hopefully I'm not out of shot. 6 cannons. Forget it. You're not allowed 6 cannons. How many cannons are you allowed in your army? You better not have 6 cannons. But I suppose you're dwarf, so a gun line is to be expected. But it's the game that allows that sort of thing, and I have no problem with that. But hopefully you, by the time you've bought your wee gyrocopters, and you're bound to want your hammers and iron breakers, surely. All those cool units, slayers. By the time you've bought all those, you won't have enough points for 6 cannons. Rule of 3 maximum? I honestly don't know. Per 1,000 points maybe? Like with the Tomb Scorpion for the Cambrian Undead. It's 0 to 3 per 1,000 points. I don't know. I've made my undead army, by the way, for this tournament. I'm going to discuss it with you guys, but not in this stream. I'll try and do another stream before the end of the month. I still have a few odds and ends to paint up for that army. I would love to have it fully painted. There's no real excuse for me not to. It's not like I'm putting an awful lot of effort into this. But even when you're speed painting, it's still time consuming. As anybody who does it knows. Anybody who paints knows. There's only so quick you can paint. Unless you don't mind making a complete and utter mess of things. And that's not the objective. The objective is definitely not to make a complete mess of things. Of course they're going to do a Slayer army. 3 per 1,000, yeah. Wasn't there a lot of, I don't like to say whinging people, but I suppose technically they are whinging people. Wasn't there a lot of people complaining about Hero Hammer? Which it kind of is. It's not as Hero Hammery as what I remember. And certainly in 4th and 5th. But it's a lot more Hero Hammery than the guys who played 8th edition. Frig, I don't know if they had any characters worth anything in that edition. I don't know an awful lot about it now. I know it was very unit heavy, but there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, you're playing a fantasy battle game. Who doesn't want to have a big bad guy on a dragon, or a big bad guy on a rune anvil, or a steam tank, or whatever? How old are those Goblin minis? They are Battle of Skull Pass. How old is that? How old is Battle of Skull from Battle for Skull Pass? Was that 6th edition? Or 7th? 2006? That sounds about right. They're nearly 20 years old, and you can tell. But you got an awful lot in that box. You got a load of goblins, and you got a load of dwarves. So can't really complain. They weren't the best miniatures, but they serve a purpose. And I just happen to have a bunch lying in the garage, well, in the shed, for probably since 2006 or not long after. So when Old World was announced, I always knew that they were going to at some point have to be dug out. I wasn't sure how quickly the orcs and goblins were going to appear. Do I have any idea on what's coming up next? I should actually show you these paints. So Tyrian Navy, and that's for their cloaks. The traditionalist would just do them black, and it would be fine, but I just like adding this bit of colour. But it's still a very black blue. As any of you who have seen any of my other miniatures will know. And yes, people have commented that I should do the cowls a different colour to the rest of the cloak, but time is of the essence. I'm going to have to come back in and pick eyes and teeth out. What more do you want? I think it actually just looks good. Of course, you could make it look better. Choosing different colours for different parts would be one way of doing it. But these paints have really spoiled me. Because they just flow so well. And as long as you do that pre-shade, at least I've found, as long as you do the pre-shade, they're one coat. This brush is nearing the end of its life. They are very hard on brushes. But I think that goes for contrast paints as well. I've heard they're very hard on brushes. Fastest Star Trek game from the 80s. Starfleet Battles. Oh, I can vaguely remember it. Vaguely. Yeah, I'm sure the ships are... I'm sure the ships are pretty grim. A lot of miniatures were pretty grim back then. Can any of you remember first edition Epic? I can have one somewhere, I don't know where it would be, I would have to try and find it. The first edition Thunderhawk was actually just a brick, just the shape of a brick, a rectangle. Didn't even have wings. Zero effort put into designing it. None whatsoever. Yeah, originally when I was thinking about painting these guys, I was just gonna do them black. And it was only when I was sitting looking at my paints, I thought, you know what? Some of those colours are super dark, but still colours. I wonder what they would look like. And that gave me the idea to actually ask you guys what you thought. And I would have been happy with either of the four, to be honest. But because I had the option of going with this Tyrian Navy, I just think it looks cool. It still looks quite bright when it's wet, but when it dries it starts to look even darker and starts to look even more night goblin-y. Yeah, you remember the Thunderhawk? It was got away with a lot back then. The likes of the young generation now who have only really seen the plastic stuff from Games Workshop or spoiled. Back in the day, if you wanted detail on a miniature, you had to paint it on, because there wasn't any sculpted on. Some of them have stood the test of time. Pointy paints, the early dwarves, the early GW dwarves, and even Marauder dwarves were great wee models, excellent wee models. And they would probably still hold up today, although they might be a little bit small. The original Bugman's Brewers. I hope some of you have got paintbrushes in your hands. This is how we get stuff done, people. This is part of the reason why I wanted to do this live stream. Is so I can paint with you guys. And we all get our stuff done. And I honestly think you should speed paint your dwarf for me, Mr. Pointy Paints. We all know that, well, I know that you can paint phenomenally well, but you can't paint quick enough phenomenally well unless you do nothing else. And it probably goes against the grain, but it gets it done. And even if it gets it done to a tabletop standard, you can always go back to it. That's the way I look at it. Some of my Tomb Kings stuff I might go back to at some point. But you know what? That's a good intention, isn't it? But we all know that other things crop up and stuff gets pushed to the back burner. And there we have a big mistake. As I painted half his face blue, and he's not a savage orc, so that's not going to work. I didn't know Citadel done. I suppose that was back in the day when Citadel made almost anything they could. I suppose they were originally just a game company, weren't they? I can remember all the old box games they used to do. Battle Cars. Any of you remember Battle Cars? That was great. It's like a simplified Car Wars. Had plenty of fun with that. And the Judge Dredd games. And Rogue Trooper. And Aliens. Any of you remember Aliens? The board game? I think that it's still in print. Don't know who does it now. But it's the same game. And it was good. Very atmospheric. Oof, more mistakes. Let's see if we can get this off. Right. Good enough. Good enough. Yeah, a lot of the old Metal Empire was awesome. Certainly back in 4th edition they had at least 4, I want to say, different knight factions, would you call them? Houses. You had the Knights of the White Wolf, you had the Knights Panther. There's 2 that I can remember. There's at least 2 others. It would do, I'm sure you could use this Tyrian navy colour for quite a lot of things. It just, it suits these guys, I think. As a speed paint colour. There's definitely something night about a dark blue in my mind. I'm going to have to get an X and put an X on this table so I know where to keep my hands so people can see what I'm doing. Just paint it over his ear. Done it again. Oh well. Can always go back in with the white and paint them a new year, which will probably never happen. He's probably doomed to have one ear blue for the rest of his life. I'd like to thank you for being here, by the way. I know there's much better things you could be doing than sitting with me, but I really do appreciate it. This is as close to the old days of sitting with my buddies painting as I'm gonna get. And it's definitely the nicest and easiest way to get things done when you're sitting with other people, with friendly people, doing your hobby. Man of War. Oh, now you're talking. Man of War. You're digging all these games from my early days out. I loved that game. I had a huge chaos fleet. Unfortunately, it wasn't that well balanced, and I was a bit of a, for want of a better word, an arse back then. And if you came up against my chaos fleet, I sunk you mercilessly. But that didn't make for people wanting to play the game, unfortunately. So you live and learn. The older you get, the more you realise that sometimes, in fact a lot of the time, winning isn't important. And if that's the only fun you get out of it, out of life, you're missing out. But yeah, I loved Man of War. Spent one entire summer playing it all the time. Friend had a dwarven fleet. I had a chaos fleet. Another friend had a skaven fleet. I had a small dark elf fleet. Another friend had an empire fleet and a Bretonnian fleet. Bretonnians were really nice, like traditional galleons. Empire as well. But yeah, it was a great game. They brought it back in a kind of weird way, didn't they? What did they call it? Dread Fleet or something? It's kind of a flop. But the way they brought it back, of course it was going to be a flop. Sometimes you wonder at Games Workshop what's going on in their heads. But they had some really, really good games. Yeah, that's right. They can any of you remember when Epic went out? Oh, that was a sad day. And all the old box games. I went up and bought Tyrannid Attack. What were all the old box games called? Tyrannid... Was it Tyrannid Attack? Horus Heresy. The original Horus Heresy. They were having like a fire sale in Games Workshop at the time. All the Epic boxes were a couple of quid each. All those boxed games were a £5 each. I bought them all. And they were actually, they weren't bad. They weren't groundbreaking. They were very mathematic. They were very stat heavy. They were certainly not modern. I'm sure somewhere there is there's bound to be 3D files for all the old Man of War ships. It would be getting the route. I'm sure there's probably a website somewhere with all the rules. You know how these things work. But if any of you never played Man of War and you're interested at all in ships, in fantasy and ships, phenomenal game, so it was. People might say it was a bit clunky. I didn't think so. Can't remember who wrote it. Whether it was Jervis Johnson, Andy Chambers. So it was one of those guys. But that was back in the days when they still had a lot of respect for their creatives. I think the old world is fantastic. I really do. There's nothing about it I don't like. Of course, I would love my old battle magic back again with all my cards and my winds of magic and all that. I enjoyed all that. That's just rose-tinted glasses, isn't it? I think what they've done with Warhammer Fantasy Battle is really good. It's a bit of everything. They haven't given me everything I wanted, but they haven't, they've given me some of the stuff I wanted. They've done that with the 8th edition guys. They've given them some of their stuff. But I think they've tried to make everybody happy, and I think they've pretty much succeeded. I just hope it continues to get some support. I'm not happy about the getting rid of certain armies. I'm not happy about that, but in saying that, I read the Chaos Dwarf. I haven't read any of the others, but I did read the Chaos Dwarf PDF, and I was really impressed with it. I thought it was actually really good. It was better. It was much better than the Chaos Dwarf army I remember. In the White Dwarf Presents Chaos Dwarf Army book. It wasn't a great offering. I don't know what the Chaos Dwarves sold like back then, but unfortunately GW are a multinational business, and if it doesn't sell well, it doesn't last. And even if it does sell well, it won't last forever because they will want to resell it. And you can't blame them for that. But I firmly believe that there's no gun to our head making us buy stuff. And the likes of these Skull Pass goblins that I'm painting, Goblin's a goblin. Might not look just as nice as the re-released plastic Night Goblins, which I haven't even looked at, to be honest. I might buy a box of them just to have them. But they're serviceable. You don't have to go and buy the new stuff if you've still got the old stuff. But I think you should at least buy some stuff if you're interested in playing the game, because as we all know, for it to stay around, it's going to have to sell some units. I'm just really glad that it has been as popular as it has been, and that it didn't fall on its face. I guess there's enough old farts like me about. Do you remember playing when they were younger? And we're always trying to relive our youth, aren't we? It's not just a man thing, is it? I think it probably is. Isn't it? I think it's done right. Of course, everyone's always going to find something that they would rather was done another way, but I think it's been done pretty right. I just hope they keep churning out the armies. And I don't think we're going to get... The journals are that... They're pretty weak. you know, they're worth having if you have the army, but they're pretty weak. There's nothing groundbreaking or game breaking in them that I've seen so far. And as long as it stays that way, even the so-called, I don't know, I can't remember what term they have for the armies they removed. But even those armies, they're going to be competitive. Can't use them in official tournaments, big deal. How many of us play official tournaments? I've never played an official tournament. I'm 53 years old, and I never will play an official tournament, because I'll probably not be in Warhammer World playing a tournament. That's the only place you're not going to be able to use those armies. As I said, I have an event coming up at the end of this month, the 30th of this month, and I'm going to be using my Cambrian Undead. It's a 3-game job. I don't know if I'll play all 3 games, but the intention is to play all 3 games. But because I'm an old fart, I'll probably get tired. But I intend to, at the very least, record a little bit of footage and show you guys what happens. Just how badly I get my head handed to me. But I'm just looking forward to playing and having fun, and hopefully meeting some like-minded folks. SDS, what's that? Specialist Design Studios or something? Is that what they're calling them these days? But you'll see maybe at some point on this channel, I'm not sure yet. I don't want to dilute it too much. You might see Legions Imperialis at some point, because it's epic. And how can you not like epic? But one thing I have noticed with YouTube is it's a hell of a lot of work. This here isn't. This is no work. But to make even my NAF painting, even making one of my videos is a lot of work. So I don't want to let anyone down. I don't want to not paint old world stuff. In fact, I can't not paint old world stuff because I'm that into it. So I need to be careful that I don't bite off more than I can chew. I have a guy wanting me to paint up his Middle Earth models. I'm hemming and hawing about that. It's a game I never played. As bizarre as that sounds, being such a Lord of the Rings fanboy, I just appear to have missed the Lord of the Rings miniatures game bandwagon. I know Pointy Paints had the rulebook. I don't know why I missed that bandwagon. Hello, Silver's Scratch Build production. Scratch building? What sort of stuff do you scratch build? Have you got a channel? If you have, I'll have to join it and have a look, if I haven't already. Scratch building is great because it costs you nothing, but you do need to have a bit of imagination. Yeah, Forge World, Specialist Design Studios. Always have had the best stuff, but obviously we're in the minority, because if we weren't in the minority, it wouldn't be in the Specialist Design Studios, it would be main game. It's just unfortunate that other people can't see those games the way some of us see them. It's a pity that there's not more, I don't know, it's a pity that Games Workshop cling on so tightly to their IP. It's a pity they couldn't license it out, because I'm sure there'd be someone out there who would take Epic off their hands on a license, for example, and put a lot of effort into it that Games Workshop won't do. Which is, for us Epic gamers or people interested in playing that, that's a sad state of affairs. I can understand why Games Workshop don't do that, but it doesn't stop me wishing they did. The IP thing, in these days of 3D printers, and there's some really, really, really nice alternatives to Games Workshop models out there. I have some myself. There's some really nice alternatives. So I don't really know why they still cling on so tightly to that IP. Because in reality, their stuff could be reproduced if people desire. As I've said, I have seen and have some goblins, for example, that are just as nice as anything Games Workshop do. I'm not going to say better, I'm not silly, but they're just as nice. Of course they're not official, but what does that really mean? But I'm all for supporting them, and I'm all for supporting their game systems, because I don't know whether it's just the IP or a lot of it is just the IP. You just have something in your head, don't you? When I think sci-fi, I think Space Marines. Not that I've ever been a huge fan of Space Marines. When I think sci-fi gaming, I think Space Marines and 40k, and its derivatives. Of course there's plenty others. I've got Star Wars Legion figures sitting over there, but it's not the same. It's just not the same. One thing you'll notice with these speed paints for some reason, you end up with little spots of white. And you're convinced, like, see there? I'm convinced I painted that. So you do have to go back over and check your work. I normally have to go back over and check it for mistakes anyway, of which normally there are plenty. You have to do the Star Wars figures. The only problem with me doing the Star Wars figures is I only have Rebels and I've already painted them. They're sitting in a box. I have a Darth Maul because my intention was to do evil robots, and of course you have to do Darth Maul, but believe it or not, these are almost done. Bit of touching up here and there, eyes, teeth, finish these quills, bases. I'm gonna get stuck into the bases, I think. That's or hang on, Mulla. No, I'll finish the quills first. This white's probably still alright. See, they're just not the best sculpts, but they're fine. They're fine for what they are, which is rank and file. What was Pointy saying? The problem is the 3D printing market needs GW. GW doesn't need the 3D printing market. I'll have to agree to disagree with you, mate. Certainly on the fantasy front, yeah. The 3D printing market needs GW. There are alternative games, as we all know, but Games Workshop is the big boy, and it doesn't really matter what you think about that. That's the truth. Games Workshop is the big dog on the block. Always has been. One recipe for speed paints for Kickstarter was regular colours plus metallics and candy colours as add-ons. Ooh. Ooh, that sounds interesting. You want to see, Trendy, you want to see my Star Wars? Let me see if I can find them. In the box. Oh. Remember, I'm old. Wherever shoved them. You're going to have to excuse me for a minute. Oh. We'll see. Well, we've got a few Star Wars things kicking about here. Really should have played this game more. This doesn't make for great content, I'm sorry guys. Right. There's a Rebel, whatever it's called, walker. Don't ask me, because I can't remember. I'll put my glasses back on here so I can see. What's it called? Anyone remember? That was not speed painted, that was painted using traditional paints, and then it had a wash applied over the top of it. You know, like a, what did you call that old Games Workshop wash that we all loved? There's Luke, yet to be painted. There's some Rebel veterans. You can see these. Might be better showing you like this. Some Rebel veterans to be painted. And there's the main man. The best, like 15 minutes. Was it 15 minutes? Might not even have been 15. It was probably 3 minutes. But the best ATRT, that's exactly what it is. The best sequence in a Star Wars film since the first three, definitely. The Darth Maul scenes. The fight with Obi-Wan. And slap on some forested basin after the next stream. I have an entire army pretty much painted. And saying that, about a playable army painted, there's a lot of stuff could be added to it. What I'll have to do is look and see if there's anyone playing the game in my area. I'm not sure, it might be, sadly it might be dead. It doesn't deserve to be dead. It was a good game. And it's Star Wars at the end of the day. But you know how it is with these things. For some reason, there's a lot of games out there that don't make it, and there's not a good reason for that. Because some of them are actually really good games. No, sorry, I'll read back up here and see what you were saying. Yeah, it's the Rebels, I don't know, mini Scout Walker, like a, what's the Imperial Guard flipping chicken walker thing called? Same idea. Right, what am I doing? Yes, we'll finish these feathers. Agrax are a shade. If in doubt, apply a wash. So, on the Agrax or a shade, let me see, get it into flipping. We'll have to put a list of colours used for anybody that cares. And you can be ignorant with this, because it doesn't matter if it runs onto the cloak, you'll never see it. The amount of YouTube videos I've watched where guys use washes very lightly. I know it's a personal preference thing, you know, everyone has their way of doing things. I am brute force in ignorance when it comes to washes. I smother stuff in washes. Most of the time it actually works out alright, I think. And I can still see the odd little bit of white. Cracks me up. It's the only thing that annoys me about speed paints. So here's a wee bit there. See if we can see it. See it? Just right at the edge of his coil. Gone. Another wee bit down there. Gone. It's just strange the way they have that effect. And it's all only little tiny areas. But it definitely does. And it's not infrequent, it's nearly in every miniature. You get those little tiny dots of white coming through. And I know I've hit them. At least I think I have. Obviously maybe I haven't, but you think you have. But you just have to go over the miniatures several times sometimes, especially with these dark colours, because the white likes to rear its ugly head when you don't want it to. Did you hear an alarm going off? Yeah, it's I have a petrol station or gas station 50 yards away from my house, and there's nearly always some sort of alarm going off. It's nothing to be concerned about. It's normally a child in a car setting an alarm off on behalf of a parent who's in the garage. Yes, speed paints can scuff off. They're not as bad as the contrast paints, I find. There's another piece I've missed. With the contrast paints, any of you that use contrast paints, you'll know that they like to stain, and I mean really stain. I know that's the whole idea, is that you want to stain the colour, but not in the way that the contrast paints do. I don't know if it's just I don't know if they've always done that, or it's this iteration that does it. I don't know, some of you guys would know probably. But what I have found is you'll end up with a dark stain. There's something's just falling behind me. Not to worry. You need to be really careful with them. I have a nice colour that I like. Pterodon turquoise. You need to be super careful with that, because it looks horrible if you let it stain. The goblin alarm? Hope not. I was watching a YouTube video the other day. I don't know why these things come up on. I don't know if you're the same. You get these things come up on your feed and you go, "Why is that there?" But it was to do with a goblin invasion in an African country. I can't remember the country, but they actually used the word goblin. And it was actually really funny. The article was really funny. The local police force were using a goblin invasion as an excuse not to turn up for work and being serious about it. So whatever they deem goblins, they've obviously got a different idea for what a goblin is than what we do. I'm going to do these bases now, because I may as well. How long have we been on? Anyone know? couple of hours, I suppose I'm going to let you guys go. Got these guys mostly done. The bases will be done, and I'll show you them. Teeth picked out, eyes, a little bit of touching up here and there, and that's 18 more goblins sorted. So, as I said, the idea is to have 40. I'm going to have 40 goblin archers and a unit of 40 goblin spearmen, and they'll probably last to turn 2, but they're goblins, so what do we expect? So I've been on for 2 hours and I appreciate it very much. I could stay on for another 2 hours, but I'm not going to bore you guys to tears with me painting bases brown. I will certainly think about some other types of stuff, especially for the streams, not so much for videos, but I might include some other game systems in the streams if you guys wish. Just really to add a little bit of variety, so you're not always watching me paint the same thing, or we're not always painting the same thing. We can chat about other things. I'm quite happy to talk about any other game systems you want. I've played nearly everything. If I haven't played it, I've thought about playing it. Like to thank you guys. You need 40 Iron Drakes. Iron Drakes? Is that a dwarf with a firearm by any chance? Thank you guys for putting up with me. I will try and edit this to some sort of better than the last time, put it like that, where I was phoning my ex-wife halfway through to see if I was still alive. Now I have kind of figured out how this malarkey works. I can hopefully be a little bit more professional, and I will be showing you the finished goblins in the next stream. As I said, that's half a unit. I'll try and get the other half finished, and I'll show you both units. I'll show you what I've got actually painted up until then, which will be, there's, you know, a small army minus the characters. There's a small army painted, and that's the whole idea, is to get stuff done, and this is helping me big time, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. As I said, this is as close as it's going to get to me for having the buddies round with a beer and a paintbrush in our hands and all having a laugh, and that's what we're doing. And I'll see you guys next time. I will try and have another live stream going before the tournament, which is on the 30th. So I'll try and get another one going before then. I'd like to discuss my undead army with you guys and get your thoughts and opinions. I'm trying not to be a dick, but by the same token, I want to have a chance. So I'll discuss it with you guys. You can have a look at my army and you can see what you think. But I'm going to let you go. Thanks very much, and have a great rest of your Friday evening, rest of your Friday night, rest of your Friday, depending on what time of day it is for you. And I'll see you in the next one.